Stand up for all the glory!
Hey!
Hello and welcome back to the Anarchy Garage, and today I'm going to be installing air suspension onto an E-Type Jaguar. Now this is the first time this has ever been done, so this is going to be a big learning curve for me. Now if you're not familiar with the E-Type Revenge build, this started out as a render which we found online, spoke to the artist Yassi Designs and actually purchased the design from him. Since then, we have also cut up an F-Type, which was only 18 months old, to steal its 5-litre supercharged engine, suspension and running gear, which is now built into our E-Type. We've also been working with West Forged, who have actually created the wheels to match our render, and also Nankang tyres, who have given this car some new shoes. Now, this is the first time I have ever done air suspension, so this is going to be a massive learning curve for me. But also, Bagged have actually been in contact constantly to make sure that I understand what I'm doing with this, and they've given me some trick tips and pointers along the way. Now, the stage that this car is at, as you'll see from the render, this is going to have a massive body kit on it. However, because this shell is so lightweight, it hasn't actually got the springs to sag. So that means that I've had to come up with a different idea, which is to go with air suspension. Now the problem with that has been, I can't start to build the body kit until the suspension is where I need it to be. So what I'm going to be doing now is install all of this air suspension, start to set it up, which is going to be a bit tricky because I have no electrics in this car at the moment, but I need a ride height to build the body kit. So what we're going to do is go strut by strut, work through installing this, and then hopefully the payoff is going to be this thing slammed to the ground. Let's talk air suspension, because there are a few different kinds of bags available to you depending on your car. Now the first one I want to talk about is if you have a spring which is separate to your dampener, so you've literally just got a spring in a cup and your dampener is somewhere else on your suspension. Now this is the best kind of air suspension you can install because you can get a very universal bag, you get the correct height, you remove your spring, you put your bag in, and then you can lower it on air. Now this is great. Now the only downside of this though is your actual shock absorber. Because if your shock absorber will not let the car go low enough, you're going to be limited by that. You can then obviously get aftermarket ones, you can get lowered ones, and you can start building your kit up from there. But it's not just the bag you've got to consider, it is the shock absorber as well. Now the next sort is actually your standard strut, same as I'm holding here. So where you've got spring and then your actual shock absorber runs through the centre of it. Now there is a new system out for this which you can actually get a double skinned bag. So that has actually got an air bag on the inside and the outside, so it kind of replaces your spring directly. Now again, the downside of this is going to be your shock absorber, because the factory ones aren't going to want to give it the exact lows. Now you might be lucky and you can ground it out, but most of the time you will end up changing this anyway, especially if you want it to go absolutely to the floor. Now that leads me to this one that I'm holding here. So this is basically, it's like a coilover running through the centre. This is custom made for our application. Now some of these you can actually use a coilover and then put your double skin bag on as well, which is quite a common thing to do. But this has come from Bagged as a full one-piece kit. Now what's great about this is as well, the actual strut itself is adjustable. So once we've found that complete ride height and got it down to the floor, we can actually wind this up a little bit. Now why would you want to do that? The benefit of that is you're taking the wear off the bag. So you're making it so even when the car is to the floor, there's still just a little bit of air in here. Now that means that the bag isn't going to get creased and it's going to last a little bit longer. You're still going to end up with that massive change in height, but it means that you're not creasing the bag, and it is really important to look after your suspension. So what I'm going to do now is actually remove the strut off the back of the E-Type and then replace it with this. If you hadn't already noticed then, I've already converted this car to full F-type suspension underneath. So that means then that we've got an 18-month-old strut here, but from an F-type. So then we're going to replace it with this, and straight away you can see the size difference between these. And this is why it's so important when you find your kit that you've got something with adjustment, because this might just straight away be far too low. So that is all of the bags now onto the car. Now, they were absolutely great. There was nothing wrong with the fitment with it. However, the car being so light, it was actually a real battle to actually get the suspension up with the car lifting up as well, because there's just no weight in this at the moment. So it was a bit of a tricky job. Now that all of the bags are in, what I'm going to do is actually start having a look at the lines and getting it routed back to the management, which is going in the boot. Time to start looking then at the other components in the air suspension. Now, bags do an amazing kit which includes absolutely everything you need to put your car on air. However, there are a few components that you can actually upgrade and swap out, and then they can change the price to suit your needs. Now, the big change that I have made with this is actually the compressor. This is Bag's new super silent compressor, and it's larger than the standard model. So we're just off the same air as running two smaller compressors, but much quieter. The benefit of that as well is because it's smaller, it's going to be easier for me to hide in the back, because I want a lot of the air suspension to actually be very stealthy in this car to keep that prestige look about it as well. The other thing you can change is actually the air tank. Now, the air tank, we've actually gone smaller with this car. Because this isn't going to be dancing and doing tricks and going up and down constantly, I thought having a smaller tank that was easier to hide was much more important. As well, if you speak to Bags, there are other elements you can change within this kit, but those are the big changes that I've made. So what I'll be doing next then is moving on to the airline. So it's now time to start building some lines up on the E-Type. Now, this is going to be a bit semi-temporary on the car, mainly because although I need to lift the car up and down and use the air ride to actually build the rest of the car, things might move. I've got all of the engine interior to go and loads of other changes, so I'm leaving loads of excess on each line to make sure that I can alter it afterwards. Now, there's a few things to go through when you're actually building your lines up. The first is your cutter. Now, the cutter itself wants to be something like this. So this keeps the pipe perfectly square and you get a straight cut. So that's very important with this, because if you're going off on an angle, you're not getting the best seal that you could do, and this is probably where it's either going to burst or leak. The next thing is bending it. Now, this is very pliable. You can see there's loads of room in it, but what you don't want to do is kink it. Now, when you've kinked it, that part of the line is dead, guys. Do not risk it. You can see it's whited very slightly in the corners of it here as well. And that is probably the weak point of this pipe. That is where it is going to pop. So the simple thing to do is either replace the whole line or cut that section out. The next thing is going to be your joints. So when you do all of these, they're going to go into the control boxes and your compressor and also the struts. Get yourself some PTFE tape or liquid. That is going to help seal the joint, same as you would with a kind of workshop compressor. Make sure you got some PTFE on there as well. So yeah, a few little tips, but it's going to make the job much nicer. All of my temporary lines are now routed to the back of the car. Now what I can do is actually build up a temporary wiring loom with this, because obviously I have no electrics in here, and route it straight to a battery to get the control box working. That'll then mean that I can actually find out how low this car will go. The air suspension all mocked up in the back of the car. Now I know this isn't tidy, it is thrown in, but it is just to get the actual ride height of the car. So unfortunately it's a bit of a needs must. It's in there, but it's unearthing a few issues already, which is good news. So straight away, when I actually went to put my wheels back on, they wouldn't go on the rear. So I've had to cut a big section at the rear quarters to actually get the wheels back on at a standard ride height for this now. Also the front end, I've actually had to cut the front part of the sills off. Now this didn't match up to the bonnet section that I'd already cut. So yeah, it was inevitable, it was coming off. But again, it shows how much lower this car now is. Now currently it is sat on the ramp legs. So what I've got to do is start to get some power in this, see if it all turns on, see if I've got any leaks, and then I can hopefully lift the car on the airbags, kick the ramp legs out, and then see if this all works. So yeah, let's try a bit of power in this and see if it switches on. Whoop. That made me jump. So it's on and it is building air, so that has got to be a good sign. It dumped some air straight away, which made me jump in a big way. Right, I'm going to get the controller and see what's going on with that. Okay, so this is the controller. Now, this is a nice piece of kit. I'm trying to keep it in the bag so I don't mark this. All works on touch. It automatically locks screen, so you give it a couple of presses and it unlocks. Then you've got full control of the car. You can then set all of your ride heights and all of your different settings. So I believe this has 5 different height settings, and you can make it so it's set, so whatever you turn it on at, it goes straight to that level as well. So yeah, very nice piece of kit, very nicely made, and then you've got the wires going here. Now also there is an app to control this, which is really cool, so you can actually do this off your phone as well. But yeah, it's showing that everything's lifting up, everything's good. So right, I'm going to press some buttons and see if we can lift it off the ramp without using a trolley jack. Okay, so let's give it a go. Right, so that's unlocked. Whoa! Let's try the front. Right, so that's it lifted. Let me see if I can get these ramp legs out now. So that'll mean I've done it without using a trolley jack. So yeah, already a great sign. Okay, so all the ramp legs have now come out because it's lifted. That is absolutely mega. Even then, that saved me using a trolley jack. So yeah, I'm down for that. Right, let's try the back down. So we'll lock the screen. Oh, wow! Look at that! Oh, yeah, baby! That is on the tyre. That is mint. Wow. That is, yeah, probably the lowest E-Type I have ever seen. That is seriously low. Right, so let's try lowering the front and see how it goes. Ooh, something unusual happening here. That's unusual. Oh, Okay, there's a problem I never foresaw. So by the looks of it, what's happening is the A-arms, as they're coming up to allow the car to lower down, they're actually catching on one of the ridges of the bonnet. Not the worst thing though, because to be fair, I could just extend the wheel arches a little bit further up, which would actually give the A-arms more room to flex as well. But yeah, she's down. Is there any more air in the front? No, that is everything. So let's see if the bonnet will still go on okay. Right, so that is as low as the front kind of wants to go. I think you'll agree that is pretty spectacular. When you think this car is now under my crotch line, it is incredibly low when you look at it compared to me. And yeah, can you imagine trying to climb in at this height? This is incredibly low. I don't know what the ground clearance is like underneath. So it's got about 3 or 4 inches at that. So there is still possibly room to go. But what I will say, I think that is as low as I need it. So I don't want to push it any further than that. I think that's pretty cool though. So let's try and lift it back up. It's pretty fast. Right, so that's the front and the back. So yeah, the back comes up absolutely mega. What I will say is, this is lower than the car was on the standard suspension as well. So even at that height, it is radically low. When you think that's, yeah, again, it's level with my pocket on my trousers, which, yeah, that is a very low car. To unlock it, glove dump in the rear. This makes me nervous though. I think you'll agree that is pretty cool. Obviously the bonnet areas make me a little bit nervous for obvious reasons, but that does look pretty spectacular. Look who has just turned up for all the glory!
Hey!
So yeah, Shep has just dropped in on his way home to come and check progress. How have you getting on? What do you reckon?
Amazing. Absolutely incredible. I mean, bag performance, you guys have done a hell of a job building the kit, but it actually sat on the bags now is way beyond anything I could ever imagine. It's just wild.
Yeah, so this is kind of the actual lowered height of it. It will not go any lower, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, if I cut any more at these rear arches, I'm going to end up in the rear windows. And then the other thing is, this now matches the render. This is the height that it demanded to match Yassi Design's actual original drawings.
And the front subframe is about 1.5 inches off the floor, so yeah, we can't go any lower.
Yeah, so the F-type front suspension is actually all bottomed out. It will not go any more. But yeah, there's about 2 inches off the ground.
If that, yeah.
If that, yeah. So it is mega low. All the system is working great, but what this has now done is give me the height to build the body kit. So now it means I can actually start rodding it out and building my big steel body kit on this car. So yeah, that is it for this episode of the Anarchy Garage. See you next time.